Alright, this video is designed to help anybody who's trying to take the transmission off of a 2021 Can-Am Outlander. This is the 1000R XMR. There's just no information on YouTube really for this four-wheeler. There's a guy or two who have taken them apart, but their four-wheelers were a bit different. So, and the differences really make a difference on this four-wheeler. So I really wasn't able to use what they did to theirs to help on this one. So I made this video up. I'm just going to cover a few key steps that you have to do this. First off, while your battery is still in, put it in four-wheel drive. The reason for that, it will allow you to pull this 4x4 actuator off of your transmission, because you're going to need this off to get to the nuts that are behind it. So put it in four-wheel drive, and that lines it up good for that. And then you can unhook your battery. I didn't need it any after that, so I unhooked the battery and pulled it out. Take off the dash display, and to do that, it's pops straight up out. That's all there is to it. Just grab, wiggle, and pop straight up. It should come right out. And the reason you want to do that is there's two hidden screws that hold on all this plastic. And you'll find it. See, this is where the little power outlet is. That's where this is where your key would be. There's a screw there, and then on the other side, here's your shifter. Right up under there, they snuck another screw. You don't want to rip them, so take off the dash display, and then you can get to those two screws. There's online videos about how to take the plastic off, so I'm not covering any of that really. I mean, if you're going to be going to the transmission, hopefully you know what you're doing enough to get the plastic off. If not, the rest of this is going to really suck for you. Okay, next, plastic's out of the way, dash display's out of the way. Start working your way down through. Take off the rest of your plastic, everything you need. I took off the cradle. I was just kind of screwing stuff back on so I remember where it goes later. But take pictures. If you're not sure, take pictures. Take a lot of pictures. You can't go wrong taking pictures. But get all the plastic out of your way. Remove the exhaust. You're gonna need that removed because you're gonna be moving the engine later. It's not a clearance issue. Can you get to? Well, I mean, with this exhaust on, I couldn't get to the transmission bolts anyway, so I had to take it off. So take off your exhaust. All right, and here's the next big couple steps that you're going to want to do. These ones take a little while. Let me get my light here. I can show you a little better if I can have a little light on the situation. All right, so I took off the rear guards. This is where your receiver tube goes. This is a little cage that goes to the back side of the rear diff. Take all that off, unbolt the diff, and slip it back. I probably came back 1.25 inches there, I'd say. I guess I should say before I took that off and slid it back, there's a little, where the front yoke is, this here has a bolt going through it. If you have a ratchet wrench, I believe it was 13 millimeter, ratchet wrench that up out of there, and that'll slip right off the back of the transmission. Just set it aside. You're done there. Go to the front. Take the bolts out. You're gonna have trouble with these bolts. A socket does not want to fit past that. So what I did was I used a little air tool I have. Let's see if it's still sitting here. I used this little burr bit, or whatever you want to call that. I used that, and I actually just trimmed. Now I did that part. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I did it to the other side. It's the same situation on the other side. You can see that I carved down that bolt a little bit. This bolt here. So I could fit my socket into there. So I carved this down, put my socket in, and I used the wrench on the other side to hold the nut, and then I backed it out. And then after I had it backed out, then to make it to go together easier, after that was out, then I came over here with that tool I just showed you, and I did the same thing here. So now my socket will fit in there. But you need that bolt. See another bolt back in there? Right there. That bolt has to come out. Where is it? I think there was one more. There she is up there. So I think there's a total of 3 bolts that I had to pull, I do believe. I think it was 3 bolts. Anyway, you get the 3 bolts out. And if you're curious, why did I do that? It's not to move it forward. because there really is no space to move it forward. You're not doing it for forward clearance. You're doing it so you have the ability to, this is hard to do holding the phone. You're going to need to be able to roll the front diff to get this shaft to lift up over this shaft. There's bolts inside this. Do not try to pop this off. There's a bolt inside it. You just break this shaft. What you do need to do is cut the two bands that hold this rubber on. It's going to suck to put them back in, but I think there's room for hose clamps, so you might be good there. But the objective is to be able to pop this back and lift it up, because unless you roll the diff, this will not clear any which way. There's just not enough room for it to move this way. So roll the diff, pop it up over, and then when it's time to move the engine forward, you have clearance. Okay, on that note, I took this airbox off. I did not want to hurt the throttle body. If I were to start moving the engine forward while it was still connected to the airbox, there's a really good chance I would have ripped the throttle body boots. That's a lot of work getting to that too, so take the time, take the airbox off, take that throttle body off, plug up your holes, and then you're on to motor mounts. The motor mounts are a little tricky on their own. Hopefully you got some good pry bars around, because this is a very heavy engine. You see a mount up under here. I took the nut off. See the rubber mount there? So I was able to take off the rubber nut, or take off the nut. Actually, I have that mount pinched a little bit. Didn't mean to do that, but I don't think I hurt it. And if I did, it's just one mount, so I'll replace it. But you need to be able to move this engine forward. Judging by that, I'm saying about an inch and a half. Once you're able to move the engine forward an inch and a half, you'll be looking for 4 nuts on the transmission. Take those 4 nuts off and you'll be able to slip the transmission back. Now I reached in and I stuck it in 2-wheel drive after the actuator was off, because it moves the sleeve off of that, and then you don't have to worry about fighting that sleeve and nicking it. But on the transmission itself, there's a 2-piece mount right here that you can access pretty easy after the exhaust out of the way. You'll need that 2-piece mount off and out of the way. And you will be able to, you see I have some wood under it and a couple odds and things. I used a strap to try to help it, because once you take the mounts off, everything wants to sit. Well, with it sitting, you can't pull the transmission back, because the transmission's hitting this cross member. So I used a wrap. I wrapped a mount around, or I wrapped a strap around it. Just went up over, came back down around. I'm not crushing anything. Nothing's in danger there. And this strap's not really under a lot of pressure. It's more or less to keep the engine sitting still where I had it. But once that's done, you're able to pull the transmission back and kind of roll it. And it comes right out the side. It's pretty easy after you get all the legwork around the transmission. That's the real killer. But these couple of things that I just was telling you, I think that they're very important to getting the transmission out safely. So I really hope this video was helpful to somebody, because I could not find much information on this 4-wheeler. I mean, I know I'm skipping steps. So like I said, anybody who's doing this, I hope you have a little bit of common sense about you so you don't cause any problems. But that's the brake booster switch, or it's the master cylinder for the brake pedal. It's like 2 or 3 bolts holding it on, and then you're able to just move it out of the way. You don't even have to unhook it. Just move it out of the way. Starter's still hooked up. I left as much hooked up as I can. I always do. That way you don't have to try to figure it out later. Shifter had to come off. It's not that hard, just a couple bolts. You'll see them. They all stand out where you can find them pretty easy, but these things all got to come off, guys. Inner fender wells, take them off. Just get them out of your way. Don't try to work around them. You don't want to miss anything important and break it. So I really hope this helps somebody, because this was a 2-day struggle. And I get to put it all back together once the transmission's fixed. For us, the reason this transmission had to be taken apart is because the side of it actually got broken off by a nut that worked loose in the transmission. It just broke this off like the size of a soda can. I just have it taped on. It's heading out to get TIG welded, and then we'll put it back together. So there you go, guys. Good luck. Don't get angry. I know it's pretty easy to get angry when it's this tight and this expensive. You know, walk away. Walk away and come back with a clear head, but you know, don't get a hammer involved. At no point in this did I use a hammer, except for gentle taps on maybe a wedge or something. You do not have to use any real force to take this apart. If you find yourself using a bunch of force, you're doing something wrong, or you missed something. Take your time. This is not a quick job. Don't think you're gonna do this in 10 minutes or even 5 hours. Just take your time. This expensive machine. You can do it. You got this.